today on Returning, I have my friend Niyc Pigeon, who is a positive psychologist and just an all-round legend. I was with her recently in London, and she is just a breath of fresh air, full of joy, and she has depth as well. Her new book, One More Day, is out, and it is so inspiring, and I think you're going to love this conversation. We've got an amazing soul inquiry at the end, and it's a particularly inspiring conversation if you know anyone who has been struggling with mental health. And I think most of us have experience with that in some capacity or other. Maybe you do as well. Niyc, of course, has suggested different numbers to call if it is if you're really struggling with it. And she also shares some really, really great tips to that you can use to support friends as well as support yourself. So can't wait for you to listen. So Niyc, so good to be with you. We were just in London recently having a lovely dinner and celebrating your new book.
It was the best. I literally loved it. And celebrating your birthday as well.
Oh my God. Yes, that's right. What an amazing coincidence.
It was so good.
So good. So I want to know a question. What were you like as a little girl that will kind of, I don't know, bring to life who you really are, like from a soul perspective?
Do you know what? It's such a timely question. So I recorded an episode of a podcast with one of my friends last week, and I've known him for 20 years. And as research for the podcast, he contacted my dad, and he asked that question to my dad, right? And he didn't tell me. I know, it's crazy. So he reached out, and when I was on the show, he said, so by the way, I spoke to Phil, and I asked him what you were like as a little girl. And he said she was always so inquisitive. She always wanted to know, why is this that way? And why does this happen like that? So I was always really curious and always in the question of, why is life the way that it is? And he said, once I got like
so
hooked,
like you.
It's cool, isn't it? Because I was like, like now it kind of makes sense. I'm always like, I want to know like answers for things, and I want to look for different perspectives. And he said as well that once I like get locked on an idea, once I like got hold of something, like I wouldn't like let go. I was really determined to find out why, or I was really determined to get the answer.
And do you think that like that determination, like was that something that you came in with? Is that something that you like was nurtured in like as you grew up? Is it part of like your family system? Or
I think I learned my work ethic from my dad, but I don't necessarily think that that's determination. I feel like there's a quality within me that's like a tenaciousness and a intrepidness that is this kind of eternal adventurer.
Oh, that's so interesting, Niyc, because I think that there's a couple of things that like I know that you and I have in common. Like I know that you and I both knew we went traveling when we were really young. We also, I hope I have this right, we went to, I'll talk about myself, and I think you are the same. I went to a private school, but I was like definitely like, I felt like I was like, I was like not the same as all the other kids. Like it took a lot for me to be able to be there. And so I think that's where I think I got my hard work ethic as well as like my parents, but I think I came in with it too.
Yeah, I feel like if I look at like why I would have chosen my parents in this like context, they really trusted me to be responsible and independent. So I think they gave me the freedom to exercise that edge of adventure and see how far I could go with it. And
because you definitely come across to me as someone who like seizes the day, like you like embrace life and like make the most of it. And like with your new book, One More Day, can you talk about that and the message and where that call came from?
Yeah, it's really about how can we be in the celebration of life. So the book, the book it's a total mission book, and I'm really, really proud of it. I feel like it's what the world needs right now. And it was born from a place of, I had 3 of my close friends who died by suicide. And with every loss, I learned something new. And it was almost like this new texture of my life's experience came through. When my first friend died by suicide, I had literally just finished leading a talk in my local coffee shop in Newcastle. And it was the best talk I'd ever led. It was about how you can live your best life. And I'd walked out, I was like high on life. I was like, I nailed it. Everyone had such a good time. I got into my car and I opened up my phone and I had so many missed calls from one of my friends. And my heart just sunk and I just knew that something was wrong. And I called her back and she said, Chris has taken his own life. So it was like this high to this low. And it was fascinating, like that I'd gone from teaching people how to live their best life. And then my friend's life was no longer there. So I feel like a lot of my experience has been a great like juxtaposition or a lot of polarity in it, like the success and the hardship, the life and the death. And that is life. That is our experience in this lifetime on this planet.
It is the human experience. And I think it's the human experience of truly living. And that takes courage, like to be able to keep your heart open through it all. You know, like it's like grief is evidence of how much we love. And
100%.
If we close our heart off, we'll close our heart off to the grief, but we'll also then close our heart off to the joy. So I think that's really interesting. Like in that moment, you literally are having these polar experiences. And like, because I know you're a positive psychologist, had you already done your training? Did that inspire you to do your training? Where was that in your timeline?
So I'd started on the journey of positive psychology back in 2007-ish. So I'd been working with it for a long time. It was only when I went through healing, like my sexual assault experience, that it really took me even deeper into my practice, because I had logically and intellectually understood the science, but it was only when I was invited to really apply it, not just to go from good times to feeling great, but to really be in the depths of this experience and how I can use the tools to get through hard days too. So I wrote the first book, Now Is Your Chance, kind of after coming out of that experience in 2014, 2015. And that first book is How to Live Your Happiest Life. So it doesn't ignore these big challenges, but it's very much in there. This is what you can do to boost your well-being. One More Day takes it a level deeper, and it looks at this intersection between the research in positive psychology and suicidology. So when I started to lose my friends, I just started to be in the question. The book took me a year to write, but the research for it, I was in it for 4 or 5 years before that.
Right.
I was going on hikes, and I'm the girl that I didn't think that I would become a positive psychologist that's so passionate about suicide prevention. But it's honestly the thing that has made the most sense and feels the most filled with joy and hope that I have ever worked on.
I totally get that, Nick. When I was at in school, I did for my year 12 or 11 or 12, I did society and culture, and we had to do like a major work, personal interest project. So it's kind of like social anthropology, that subject. I did mine on suicide, on hope and hopelessness, and it's the effect
I did not
on
know
suicide.
this.
Yeah, because
goodness.
I had two very good friends who killed themselves while I was at school, and yeah, I had like such a an odd brush with death from such a young age. And I also, like, when I was really young, I started like connecting with spirits of children who had passed and being connected to their mothers. And I would like sit with them, the mothers, and for whatever reason, I didn't understand why. It was out of nowhere, just feeling so comfortable in the grief space and just like wanting to take it away and fascinated by it as well. And it was actually one of those mothers, Angela, her daughter had died, and there was a book written about her. She died after having a drug overdose, an ecstasy tablet at a dance party. But then the author of that book I met, and she also wrote a book called, I think it was Dying Early or Dying Young, on youth suicide. And so, yeah, I learned a lot from her as well. But again, it's this like fascination, but also it's the opposites together, like the lowest, but also the light that can come from that as well.
I feel
So
like it
interesting.
cracks us open to new levels of potential as well, because I mean, like if you look at where this book was birthed from, it was the third of my friends that died by suicide that finally got me to listen and say, like, there's something here and it's so present in my reality that I'm supposed to do something with this. So transforming that pain into a new level of devotion for life has been really, really special. And I've felt the connection with my friends who are not here anymore. Like, I know that they're here. It's been so special.
And what do they want us to know?
I think what's really come through is that we were walking a path that is still unknown. And we just get to do our best, and we get to do our best together. I think that it's the unity and knowing that we're not alone, and knowing that the tiny steps that we are taking daily are actually the things that matter the most. And I think just feeling that, how energized this work is and how supported and with speed it's been flowing, because it is the thing that the world really needs. That's felt really, really special. I think that before this book, honestly, I had a lot of things that were great and were successful, but this feels just a completely different.
It's meaningful, yeah.
Yeah,
really
it's meaningful.
Cold.
And every person that I talk with, and I know that that's like a sweeping generalization to say every person, I'll say 99% of people that I speak with have had some sort of experience with mental health and suicide. I had a 2-hour long line at the London book launch event because everyone was sharing their stories, and it was just so special.
Yeah. And it's, I think it is so like, I don't know anyone who doesn't feel alone in some capacity, and like the way that we've built our society, it's built for that, and COVID and all of that. So like, are there I'm definitely someone who is a deep feeler. I don't know about you. Are you as well?
Yeah, so deep.
Yeah. And so like, regardless of like, because I know it's everything's all subjective and all of that, but like, if anyone listening is like having a difficult day or like struggling with their mental health, is there any tips that you'd recommend?
Yeah,
positive psychology.
The point is that there's so many tips, there's so many tools that just haven't been linked in this way before. So the biggest thing is don't wait until it's too late. Prevention is not crisis intervention. So crisis intervention, if someone or yourself is struggling, you need to call 999 911 or a suicide hotline like 988. And what we actually get to do is live life in a way where we understand that we can shift the way that we feel in a moment And the more moments we create those shifts for ourselves, the easier it gets to navigate the hard times, whether that's now or in the future. So it's really like deepening our well of resilience inside, but then also allowing ourselves to be in the lightness as well. So what happens with emotions and feeling is the times that we experience joy and love and excitement and those kind of opening emotions that are positive, it's like you're putting them in a toolkit for the hard days. So you can kind of use those memories, or you can use those inner resources to get through the hard times. What I've learned is that we all have the hard times, and it's actually brought me closer together in friendship and relationship when I've opened up about those struggles and challenges. And
so just the act of talking about it.
Mm-hmm. And just, it's proven that talking helps. And it's also, rather than trying to figure it all out alone, rather than thinking that I've got it all handled, there was so much relaxation and relief that came with the conversations of, you know what, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay not to be okay. And here's how we're going to be in that together. I just think loneliness is a huge, huge challenge for us right now. And we get to do something different.
If we've got a friend who is struggling with their mental health, like, is there any like do's and don'ts? I know it's completely subjective, like of what they're going through, but is there any tips that you can give?
Yeah, it's better just to have a conversation rather than not. So if you're feeling it, then say it. So it can be as simple as, how are you feeling today, really? Or how are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10 today, and why? Like, let's go, let's talk about it. One of the things that really helped me when I was struggling was my friend actually showing up at my house and saying, let's go for a walk, 10 minutes. And even though I didn't want to do it, I went, and I felt better because of it. So it's knowing that sometimes there'll be a resistance that comes up, and we have to work out what our gateway tools are for us. And that might be a call with a friend that we trust. It might be listening to a meditation. It might be practicing breath work. It might be moving your body, or listening to music, or something that's really, really simple that allows you to make a start. What I found was that the practices that I previously used, which are very, very powerful, they felt like they were too overwhelming to put into place when I was struggling. So I found it really hard to think about a big goal or a big vision for my life. I really had to bring it down to, okay, I'm in this moment right now. What is the one simplest thing that I can do to create a micro shift that allows me to feel a tiny bit better and get that dopamine hit inside of my brain, activate my sense of accomplishment, and then maybe I can take another step as well.
That's really interesting. Yeah. So what is the tiny little thing that can give you the dopamine hit? That's so practical. I love practical as well what you shared about your friend just showing up, because I remember one particular period of my life where I was grieving. So like I was definitely depressed, but I was in deep grief, and when you're in deep grief, it's like it just hits you in waves, and you're just like, when is this going to be over? And I remember having some amazing friends, and one in particular kept on offering things like, because I was away from family as well. So I didn't have like a support system, like community around me besides my friends. And she kept on saying like, do you want me to come around? Do you need me to come and make you a cup of tea? And I remember being like, well, no, I don't need you to make me. I'm capable of making a cup of tea. But it took me ages to realize, I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't even say yes. Like, it wasn't about making a freaking cup of tea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it made me go like, like just showing up rather than saying, because you just get overwhelmed when you're in that state.
100%.
And you're like, I don't know what I need. I guess I don't need you to make me dinner because I am capable of doing that. But I'm also incapable of doing some other things, but I can't even tell you what they are because my mind is just blown.
Exactly. You kind of compartmentalize things in a way that you
Yeah.
are functioning,
Yes.
but you're not necessarily functioning in a way that is like your best possible self. You're kind of just getting through things. And I remember those moments where friends showed up at my house, and I can literally remember the picture of like the moment in my mind where we're in the parking lot and they're like, you are not okay. It's okay. Like, tell us. Or they've showed up and they've been like, I'm here to give you a hug.
Yeah.
Whereas if someone had said, do you want to do something today? Should we go out?
You would have said no.
No.
Yeah. But you needed a hug and you needed not to be alone.
Exactly.
But yes. Oh. So that's good advice if you have someone struggling. Just keep showing up. Yeah. Yeah. Don't ask the overwhelming questions. Just keep showing up.
And then look for what is it that's improving? So there's an exercise that it's called the looking for exceptions. So it's like, okay, how have things got better today, even if just a little bit? Because I feel like when you're in it, it feels like it's never going to end. And you're so future focused on when will this stop? I just have to get through this. I have to keep on fighting like a warrior. But often there's so much value in looking at how far we've already come and recognizing we've survived 100% of our days already. And there's something in that when you can see, whoa, okay, so maybe I didn't have that negative thought as many times today as I did yesterday. Or maybe I noticed that I wasn't overthinking about that thing, or I didn't have to take a nap today because I had energy all day. And that can give you another little boost of motivation to really keep on going.
And are there other little, like, the dopamine hits? Are there any, like, go-tos? Like, you know, if someone's feeling really overwhelmed and they're like, I don't even know what that is.
I mean, Kundalini's been a really, really big, powerful practice for me. And that's something that I've practiced for, goodness, 11 years now. But in the book, so I really, when I wrote the book, I was like, I'm writing this book because I've been living it and breathing it for so long. And I have a list in my phone that's called Tiny Tools. So I created a chapter in the book called Tiny Tools, and I list out, because lists really help. It's like a really simple way for you to be able to see, okay, I'm just going to choose something. You don't have to do all of them. So one of the things on here is sending a gratitude text. So gratitude is stronger when it's shared. So you could send a text to someone and thank them for things that maybe you haven't thanked them before, or think qualities that you see in that person. And that's a proven positive psychology intervention. When you say intervention, it sounds so scientific.
So big, but it's all the repetition of the little things. Yeah.
Yeah, send in a gratitude text using a dry brush. So I really love that. My love language is touch. And if I was isolating myself and I wasn't experiencing human touch as much, I noticed that was really like giving me something just to brush my body or do like the tapping or the lymphatic drainage, getting into sunlight and just
being in nature is definitely
like the senses, the feeling,
moving my
and
body,
remembering we're alive.
I always, when I most need it, I always forget to move my body. Like, I look back at these periods of my life, I'm like, oh, why weren't you moving? Why weren't you walking more? Why weren't you dancing more? And it's like the things you most don't want to do sometimes are like exactly what you need.
Yeah, there's another chapter in there called When Did You Stop? And a friend of mine had shared this. It was like a shamanic quote or like ethos. Like, when did you stop dancing? When did you stop enjoying the silence? Yes. When did you stop singing? And it's these really simple things that don't cost anything. They don't take any time. But we forget the power of breath, sound, movement, and touch. And they're the simple things that actually help us to feel again. They give us reasons to stay alive.
Oh, I love that. So at the end of our every episode, we have a soul inquiry. And so we're going to do that soul inquiry now. And that soul inquiry is, and you can just like contemplate it contemplate on the answer, or you could write it down on your phone or in a journal, or even take it and journal for 10 minutes on it. But our soul inquiry for today is, when did you stop? And then fill in the blank. Mine is definitely, when did you stop dancing? That is my one. What would yours be?
When did you stop it's the silence? When did you get so busy as a self-protection mechanism that you stopped enjoying the silence?
Whew. So fill in the blank. When did you stop? And then once you've got that, I want you to write down or commit to one little baby step you can take to act on that today. So for me, my baby step is going to be, I'm going to this weekend dance in my living room with my kids. I do a dancing on a Monday, but that relies on other people. But I'm going to start dancing in the living room with my kids as a regular weekend activity. Yes. How about you, Niyc?
I love this. I'm going to remap in what I call grace space in my calendar. I used to have it in there, and it's just grace space, but grace space is way better. And it's just time just to be. So I'm going to get intentional about that again, because that's something that's fallen off. So thank you for the awareness around this.
Awesome. Well, let us know in the comments what came through for you. When did you stop? What did you stop? And what's your baby step? So Niyc, can you share where everyone can find your book? I assume it's Amazon and all the places. And
it's everywhere.
One More Day, Target, it's called, right?
Called One More Day. You can get it at onemorebook.com. Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble, Waterstones, everywhere. And my favorite place to hang out is on Instagram as well. So I'm always available for a good old voice note with this Geordie accent on Instagram.
Love it. Oh, well, thank you so much, Niyc. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for returning to yourself with Niyc and I today.